She dropped her wine glass. The red liquid splattered across her cream dress like a wound. Her hands trembled, lips parted, eyes wide like she saw a ghost. I guess she kind of did. Jason, she whispered. Not yet, I said. Let them guess first. The room was filled with her family, her Aunt Kelly, Cousin Rick, her smug sister Tina with her Botoxed grin, and not a single one of them had recognized me. Not even her dad, who once handed me a beer and said I was the best thing that ever happened to his daughter. Funny how time and trauma can rewire your face. Her new husband stood next to her, hand protectively on her arm. Todd. Perfect hair, perfect watch, perfect teeth. The kind of guy who probably referred to his followers as legends on LinkedIn. Sir, he said, still trying to figure me out. Do you even know someone here? I smirked. I knew someone once. Pretty intimately. Though, she was someone else back then. Silence hit the room like a dropped casket. Tina set her mimosa down, eyes narrowing. Aunt Kelly whispered something to Rick. Todd tensed. Who the hell are you? I stepped forward slowly, unbuttoning my coat like I was about to deliver a sermon. My voice dropped a few degrees. I'm the guy she married before she lied, cheated, and destroyed everything we built. A gasp. Then her knees gave out, just like that. She dropped, hands hitting the floor, eyes pleading, though for what? I wasn't sure. Forgiveness? Mercy? Or just for me to leave before the truth came flooding out? Jason, she said again. Please, don't. I stared down at her. 15 years ago, I would have given everything just to see her smile. Now, her tears looked like trophies. It took everything in me not to say what I really came here to say. You kept my last name, I said. How cute. Todd looked like he was ready to throw hands. I almost hoped he would. I needed someone to bleed tonight. Let me make this easier, I added, turning toward the crowd. I was married to her. Madison. For 10 years. Before she decided office quickies and hotel room rendezvous with her colleague were more exciting than a loyal man who adored her. She buried her face in her hands. I wasn't done. She told me I was paranoid. Said I needed therapy. Gaslit me so hard I questioned reality. Meanwhile, she was getting frisky in conference rooms while I worked overtime to pay off our house. People were shifting now, whispering, fidgeting, the uncomfortable rustle of shame and curiosity mixing in the air. Todd looked like a man who just found a ticking bomb in his birthday cake. Why are you here? He asked. To return something, I said, reaching into my coat pocket. I pulled out the old photo. The one I'd found stuffed behind her dresser, years ago. Her, half-dressed, taking a mirror selfie in a hotel bathroom. The corner of the frame showed another man's hand, wedding ring and all. Not mine. I tossed it on the table. The image landed face up. Gasps echoed again. I kept that, I said coldly, as a reminder not to trust pretty lies. Madison stood up now, shaking. Jason, you don't have to do this. I do. Her father stepped forward, finally finding his voice. Son, why didn't you ever say anything? I did. But you didn't want to hear it. No one ever does when the liar's good enough at smiling. Madison's eyes were glassy. I was young. Stupid. You're not perfect either. I laughed. I wasn't asking for perfect. I was asking for loyalty. Silly me. Todd took a deep breath. Let's all calm down. Maybe this isn't the place. Oh no, I cut in. This is exactly the place. Her fairy tale needs a little truth. And just like that, the room that once toasted her new chapter stood there holding their champagne like poison. Her sister finally said, Jason, what do you want? I turned toward the door. I wanted to remind her that the past isn't buried just because you stopped talking about it. I stopped at the threshold, looked over my shoulder. And Madison, if I tell them everything, you better believe some of them will start running. Then I left. But that was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I drove 3 hours back to my small apartment with the kind of silence that suffocates. The highway lights blurred in my vision as if the weight of what I'd done hadn't fully hit me yet. I'd waited 15 years for that moment. Thought it would feel like justice. But all I felt was the same thing I felt the day I found out, raw, empty, like my chest was hollowed out with a dull blade. You probably wonder how it all started. How a man ends up showing up to his ex-wife's family party like some ghost of Christmas past. Let me rewind. It started with the smell of cologne. Not mine. It was subtle at first. Madison would come home from late meetings smelling like leather seats and someone else's scent. I chalked it up to paranoia. I wanted to trust her. She was my wife, my person. The girl I'd met back in college who used to fall asleep on my chest while we planned baby names. But then came the distance. The random mood swings. The extra care with makeup before errands. She'd be gone for hours and come back humming tunes she never used to like. I asked questions. She gave answers. Too fast. Too smooth. One night, I got home early from work. Her car wasn't in the driveway. No big deal. I walked in, grabbed a beer, and dropped onto the couch. Then I heard her phone buzz. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. It was open on the counter, screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Brad, finance team. The preview said, "Can't wait to taste you again." I froze. My heart stopped, then exploded in my chest. I clicked the message. Dozens. Hundreds. All laced with filth. Pictures. Descriptions of what they'd done, where, how. She was detailed. She was enthusiastic. I dropped the phone. It cracked against the tile floor. A perfect metaphor for what just happened to my soul. When she got home an hour later, smiling like nothing happened, I was still on the couch. The beer had gone warm in my hand. She kissed me on the forehead and walked straight to the bathroom. That's when I knew. That's when I stopped being her husband and became her prisoner. The next few days were a blur of pretending. Pretending I hadn't seen those messages. Pretending I didn't hear her whisper another man's name in her sleep. I started tracking her. Not with GPS or any tech crap, just with awareness. Noticed where she placed her purse. How often she changed her passwords. When she started locking her phone during showers. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I wanted to catch her. Not just emotionally, I wanted the physical evidence. The kind she couldn't lie her way out of. The kind she couldn't twist into "you're just insecure" or "you're crazy." So I waited. And then it happened. I followed her one evening. Said I had a late shift. I watched from across the street as she pulled into a cheap hotel off the interstate. The kind with weekly rates and cigarette burns in the curtains. I waited for 10 minutes. Then I walked in. The guy at the desk barely looked up. I told him I was looking for my wife. Flashed a photo of her from my wallet. He nodded, almost bored. "Room 212, he said. No hesitation. No questions. I climbed those stairs slowly. Every step a beat of my heart. Every creak of the metal railing a warning I ignored. The door was cracked. Just a sliver. I pushed it open. And there she was on the bed, in a mess of sheets, straddling a man who was definitely not on her payroll. She looked up. Locked eyes with me. Froze. That moment? That was the death of my marriage. She jumped off like she'd touched fire. Started mumbling something. I don't even remember what. My blood was roaring in my ears. The guy tried to grab his pants, stumbling off the bed like some guilty teenager. I didn't say a word. Just turned around and walked out. She chased after me, half-dressed, calling my name like she was the victim. "Jason, wait. It's not what it looks like." I kept walking. She screamed, "Please. Let me explain." I turned around once, just once, and said, "Explain it to God. Maybe he'll forgive you." Then I got in the car and drove until the sun came up. The divorce papers came 2 weeks later. No discussion. No settlement drama. I didn't want the house. I didn't want the car. I wanted freedom. But even freedom has a cost. Because you can take a man out of a bad marriage, but you can't erase the stain it leaves behind. And for years, I kept that photo. The one I threw on the table 15 years later. As proof. As punishment. As a reminder. She thought I disappeared. But the past always keeps your address. The day after I served the papers, she showed up at my apartment like nothing had happened. Hair curled, eyes glassy like she'd cried for hours, but knowing her, she probably had eye drops in her purse. She was always a performer. The kind of woman who could lie through her teeth and make you believe it was your fault. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed, clutching some box of things she forgot at the house. I didn't let her in. Not even past the threshold. I leaned on the doorframe, kept my voice calm. Cold. I didn't know her anything anymore. "You can just leave that," I said. "I don't need reminders." She tilted her head like she was hurt. "You're not even going to talk to me?" "There's nothing left to say, Madison." She scoffed. "So that's it? After 10 years together, you're just going to disappear?" I smiled bitterly. "Kind of like you did every Thursday after work?" Her mouth twitched. Her poker face cracked for a second before she found her usual tone, smug and self-righteous. "You know what, Jason? You were never really present. You buried yourself in work. You stopped complimenting me. You got comfortable. And you got on top of Brad." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't turn this around on me." That's the moment it clicked. She didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. She wasn't sorry. She was angry that I found out. Angry that I didn't crawl back begging for her. angry that I didn't collapse and give her power again. You know, I said quietly, I would have forgiven you. If you came clean. If you owned it. She stepped closer. Forgiven me? You act like you were perfect. You were boring, Jason. Predictable. Safe. Yeah, and you were supposed to be my wife. That shut her up. For maybe 3 seconds. Then she did what she always did, twisted the narrative. You don't know what it was like being with you. I felt invisible. I laughed. Just once? Sharp. Ugly. That's wild, considering I spent 10 years trying to make you feel like a queen. She leaned in, voice a whisper now. Maybe if you were more of a man, I wouldn't have needed someone else. I didn't flinch. She wanted to hurt me, to dig deep and hit the soft parts. But she didn't know. Those parts were already dead. Take your box, I said, and get the hell out of my life. She stood there for a few seconds too long, like she expected me to cave, beg her to stay, apologize for not being exciting enough. But when I stayed still, didn't move, didn't blink, she finally turned and walked away. That should have been the end. But of course, it wasn't. A few months later, I saw them at a restaurant. Her and Brad, laughing, holding hands like a Hallmark couple. He looked exactly how I imagined, cheap watch, loud laugh, soft handshake type. The kind of man who wouldn't stand in front of a bullet for her, but would definitely take her to Cancun on his company points. They didn't see me, and I didn't approach. I just sat in the corner, watching them, a strange calm settling over me. She replaced me so fast. Not just with him, but with an entire new life. It was like I'd never existed. But the thing about people like Madison is, they don't erase you out of pain. They erase you out of convenience. She needed a blank slate. She couldn't carry the weight of who she'd been with me. So she started over, repackaged herself, sold her lies with a new bow. Years passed. I moved cities, got therapy, built a new version of myself. But the scar she left? That stayed. Not bleeding anymore, but sensitive when touched. I thought I'd never see her again. I hoped. And then came the invitation. Well, technically it was her sister Tina's birthday party. Open house, family welcome. A mutual friend posted about it on Facebook. That's how I saw it. And something inside me, something old and still simmering, decided it was time. Time to return the favor. I hit the gym harder. Grew a beard. Changed my walk, my voice. 15 years does a lot to a man, especially one who's been through fire. I didn't look like Jason, the guy she married. I looked like the storm that came after. And when I stepped into that room, dressed in black, face unreadable, smile polite but loaded, she didn't know me. Until I opened my mouth. And now that door is open again. She knows I'm back. But what she doesn't know is, I'm not here for closure. I'm here for the truth. All of it. And I'm not leaving until the whole house burns. The next day, my phone started ringing. First, it was a private number. I didn't answer. Then it was Tina. Then it was her father. I let it ring out every time. Let them sit in the silence I sat in for years. Let them squirm with the same discomfort they handed me when they pretended not to know, not to hear, not to suspect what their precious Madison was doing behind my back. By noon, she called. Her name lit up my screen like a warning flare. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering. Then I picked up, but didn't say anything. Just silence. Jason, she said softly. I still said nothing. She waited, then continued. You didn't have to do that. I let the silence stretch so tight, I could feel her unraveling on the other end. That always rattled her, the not knowing. The quiet. Finally, I spoke. I barely scratched the surface. A pause. Then her voice sharpened. You humiliated me in front of my entire family. I exhaled through my nose. Calm. Focused. You humiliated me in front of God. You don't know what I went through after you left. Oh, poor you, I said. Living in your nice house with your new man, playing happy wife while I spent years in therapy figuring out why I wasn't enough. That's not fair. No, I snapped. What wasn't fair was you making me feel like I was the crazy one while you were playing naked tag with your finance team. She sighed. You're not the same man I married. I smiled. That's the only thing you've said that's actually true. Then what do you want from me? I paused. I want you to feel it, I said quietly. Just once. The pit in your stomach when you realize everything you built, everything you trusted, was fake. I want you to wake up one day and wonder how someone could smile at you while plotting your destruction. She didn't respond for a moment. I could hear her breathing change. She was crying, or trying not to, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. You've made your point, she finally whispered. You've said what you needed to say. No, I replied. Not yet. And I hung up. The next few weeks were calm on the surface, but I knew better. I knew Madison. I knew how she operated when the walls started closing in. She would charm, manipulate, twist people to her side, play the victim, cry into wine glasses until someone offered her a new excuse to avoid accountability. But not this time, because I wasn't playing defense anymore. I called Rick, her cousin, the one who used to help me fix my car on weekends, back when I was still family. We hadn't spoken in years, but when he answered, his tone was cautious, curious. "I was wondering when you'd call," he said. "So you were there." I was. And there was a pause, then a sigh. "You know, we all suspected. Back then. But she was good at covering. Good at spinning it. You didn't say anything. I figured you wouldn't believe me. You were in love with her, man. Blind." "Yeah," I said. "I was." He was quiet for a second, then added, "You're not wrong for what you did. I've never seen her look so cornered. I'm just getting started." That got his attention. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not after revenge. I'm after truth. And if it burns everything down, so be it." He exhaled. "If you need me, you got me." I hung up feeling something I hadn't in a long time: control. Not the toxic kind. Not manipulation. Just clarity. She built her second life on the ashes of my pain. And now I was back, sweeping through her lies like a storm. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was just going to show everyone what she was, bit by bit. And the next step? Well, it involved her mother. And a letter Madison wrote 15 years ago, the night she first slept with Brad, saying she never loved me, only married me because she was scared to be alone. I found it after the divorce, stuffed in a shoebox with cards she never mailed and receipts for hotels I'd never heard of. I made a copy. And her mother? She was about to read it over Sunday brunch. Sunday came. Brunch with the Lanes was always a spectacle. White tablecloths, bottomless mimosas, overpriced fruit carved into swans. I remembered those mornings. Madison would show up in a sundress, fake laugh at everything her mother said, and spend half the meal tapping her phone under the table, probably texting Brad while I poured her coffee. This time, I wasn't at the table. But I had a seat. Just not the kind you could see. I sent the letter an hour before they sat down. Anonymous email. No subject. No name. Just the scanned copy of her handwriting, her words scrawled in pink ink on floral stationery. "I don't love him. I never really did. I thought I could grow into it, but I feel suffocated. He wants forever. I want out. Brad makes me feel alive. Jason makes me feel like a ghost in my own life." And just like that, Sunday brunch went to hell. Rick called me later that night. Said her mother turned pale after reading it, like she'd been hit with a shovel. She didn't say a word. Just got up from the table, walked to the guest room, and locked the door. Tina tried to laugh it off, pretend it was fake. But the handwriting? Unmistakable. Madison stormed out mid-meal, called it a sick prank. Blamed Rick. Blamed everyone. Screamed at her new husband for not having her back. I knew exactly how that looked. I'd lived it. The spiral had started. And I wasn't done. A few days later, I reached out to Brad's wife. Yeah, turns out, during our marriage, Brad wasn't single. I found her online. Her name was Cheryl. She was a school counselor. 2 kids. Sweet smile. The kind of woman who probably still believed in people. I hated that I had to be the one to break her. I debated for a long time before clicking send. But she deserved the truth more than I ever did. I didn't send her the photos. Just the message history. Screenshots. Dates. Times. Places. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Thank you." Then nothing else. But I knew what that thank you meant. A week after that, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Madison. She was hysterical. "You're ruining my life," she texted. I stared at the message. "No," I typed back. "You did that 15 years ago. I'm just finally catching up." Her calls came in rapid fire. I blocked her. Then she emailed. Subject: Stop. Body: "You got what you wanted. You exposed me. Congratulations. What more do you want from me?" I didn't respond. Because I wasn't chasing anything now. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want her back. I didn't even want her to suffer. I wanted truth. Not for her. For me. Because for so long I thought I was the problem. I thought maybe I was boring. Too soft. Too dependable. I thought maybe I didn't touch her enough. Compliment her enough. Surprise her enough. But the truth? Madison was a liar long before I ever failed her. She wore masks with everyone. Friends. Family. Me. Even herself. And now the masks were cracking. A few nights later, I got another message. From Brad. It was short. You're playing a dangerous game. Stay away from my family. I laughed out loud. I typed back. I'm not playing. I already won. And I knew he was scared. Not because I threatened him. I never had to. His life was falling apart just by me telling the truth. That's how you know a man's guilty, when the truth alone feels like violence. A week passed. Then two. Then Tina texted me. Out of nowhere. She said Madison was spiraling. Drinking too much. Paranoid. Said she quit her job. Said she blamed me for everything. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I warned her? That lies rot from the inside out? That maybe if she'd just been honest once in her life, she wouldn't be living in a castle made of glass with bricks of regret? Instead, I deleted the message. And for the first time in 15 years, I slept like a man who finally remembered what peace felt like. 3 weeks later, I walked into a coffee shop in downtown Charleston. Quiet place. Local, old wood floors, creaky chairs, the kind of place where no one rushes you. I used to come here with Madison before things went dark. Before every smile she gave me was hiding something. I ordered black coffee, sat near the window. Then she walked in. Madison. Alone. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Not the Madison I remembered, the polished, pristine, perfect mask. This version looked tired. Smaller somehow. Like the years had caught up to her in a matter of days. She spotted me and froze. I didn't wave. Just stared. She came over anyway, sat down across from me without asking. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then she broke the silence. You destroyed everything. I sipped my coffee, slow. You built everything on lies. I just took the roof off. You got what you wanted, she said bitterly. No. I wanted answers. I wanted closure. What I got was silence, gaslighting, and a front row seat to my own betrayal. So no, Madison, I didn't get what I wanted. But I finally got what I needed. She leaned in, her voice low. Do you even care that I'm losing everything? You didn't care when I was. She flinched. Real pain flickered in her eyes. Maybe it was real. Maybe she finally saw it. Or maybe it was just another performance, a last-ditch effort to rewrite the story where she wasn't the villain. Brad moved out, she whispered. His wife took the kids and left the state. My mom won't return my calls. Tina thinks I'm toxic. I said nothing. She looked at me like I was supposed to save her. Like I still had a shred of love left to throw her like a lifeline. I didn't. You're good at playing the victim, I said. You always have been. I'm not playing. But you are, I said. You always were. You played me. You played Brad. You played your family. And now the game's over. I made mistakes. Stop. I cut in. Stop dressing it up. You didn't make mistakes. You made choices. Repeated, deliberate choices. You lied. You cheated. You manipulated. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. Her voice cracked. You think I don't know that? I think you've known it all along. You just hoped no one else would figure it out. She wiped at her eyes. I didn't feel a thing. No flicker of sympathy. No ache in my chest. Just a cold, clean detachment. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded once. Too late. We sat there in silence again. The noise of the coffee shop felt distant. Like we were in a snow globe, sealed in, fragile, one good shake away from shattering. I don't know how to fix it, she said. You can't. So what now? I finished my coffee, stood up. Looked down at her one last time. You live with it. Like I did. I walked out, didn't look back. As I stepped onto the street, the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt real, whole, free. And as I disappeared into the crowd, I knew Madison would never really be free. Because she'd always be chasing shadows. Always be hiding from the truth. And the worst prison? Is the one you build for yourself. A month passed. The calls stopped. The messages dried up. Her voice, her presence, her name, they all faded like a dream I couldn't wait to forget. I went on with my life. Woke up. Worked. Ate. Slept. Sometimes I even smiled for no reason. That was the strangest part, rediscovering the quiet joys. A sunrise. A perfect song on the drive home. A laugh that didn't feel like it had to be filtered through guilt. Then came the envelope. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in rushed, messy letters. Inside was a photograph. It was her, sitting alone on a bench in the park downtown. Same bench we used to sit on every Saturday morning with coffee and the paper. She was slouched, face buried in her hands. Someone had taken it from behind. No note, no signature, nothing else. But the message was clear. She was watching me, or someone was watching her, and they wanted me to know she'd finally cracked. I didn't react right away. I just stared at the photo, not out of fear, out of curiosity. Why now? Was it a cry for help? An attempt to guilt me into coming back? Or maybe it was someone else entirely, trying to reopen a door I'd locked and bolted shut. The next day, I visited the park, not to find her, to face it. The bench was there, empty now. Wind pushed leaves across the worn path. Kids played nearby, their laughter bouncing off the trees like echoes from a better world. I sat on the bench, closed my eyes, and I remembered. Her laugh, real, once. Her hand in mine. How I used to think we were soulmates. How I believed in forever. I remembered the exact moment that belief died. Hotel room. Her voice. Her eyes. The cold truth wrapped in a robe that wasn't mine. I opened my eyes again. She was standing across the path, just watching, not approaching. We stared at each other from 30 feet away, as if some invisible line kept us locked in place. Her face looked older now, not aged, weathered. Her beauty was still there, but dimmed, like a candle running out of wax. She didn't speak, didn't wave. She just stood there, and I didn't move, because there was nothing left to say. Eventually, she turned and walked away. I stayed until sunset. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was haunted, because I wasn't, but because I kept thinking, how does someone fall so far and still think they can climb back into your life with a few tears in a photo? I started writing. Not to her. Not about her. To myself. A letter I wish I could have handed the man I used to be. I told him, it wasn't your fault. You gave everything. She burned it. You survived. You rebuilt. And now, you're better than ever, because you stopped letting liars write your story. I folded it, sealed it, put it in the drawer beside my bed. A reminder. Not of her. Of me. Of who I became when she tried to destroy me. And who I'll stay now that she can't touch me anymore. Spring came early that year. The air lost its bitterness. The sky stayed lighter just a little longer. People walked slower, smiled more. The city felt alive again, and, for the first time in years, so did I. One Sunday, I passed a small bookstore on King Street. One of those hidden gems wedged between a tailor shop and a flower stand. On a whim, I walked in. Ended up buying a journal. Leather-bound. Heavy. The kind that felt like it mattered. That night, I opened to the first page and wrote just 3 words. It's over now. And I meant it. Not in the dramatic, cinematic sense. Not with bitterness or rage. Just peace. The kind that comes when the noise finally stops. When you stop asking why someone betrayed you and start asking why you stayed silent for so long. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need her tears or her guilt. I didn't even need her to admit what she'd done. Because her world was built on lies, and it was already collapsing. I didn't have to lift a single finger. The truth was enough. And in that truth, I found something better than closure. I found myself. Not the version of me she twisted and manipulated. Not the broken man sitting alone with a cracked phone and a stomach full of doubt. The real me. The one who knew what he deserved. The one who learned that love without loyalty is just a beautifully wrapped trap. I started running again. Not from the past, through it. I reconnected with old friends. Made new ones. Laughed more. Trusted more, too, not blindly, but bravely. I didn't look her up again. Didn't search for her face in crowds or on social media. I let her exist in the past, where she belonged. Because sometimes healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about no longer needing to remember. And if I could say one thing to the next man who finds himself where I was, lost, broken, betrayed, it would be this. You don't need to get even. You don't need to scream. You don't need to destroy her. You just need to walk away. Quietly. Powerfully. And never, ever look back.